My name is Marcus Hale. I am 42 years old. 2 months ago, my wife left me. Not in some big screaming fight. She just packed her things one Tuesday while I was out shooting photos downtown and left a note on the kitchen table. I need something else, it said. I didn't argue. I booked this cruise instead. The Paradise Queen is huge. 14 decks, pools, theaters, restaurants, everything you could want when you're trying to forget your life. First few days were exactly what I paid for. Pools, parties, shows, fancy buffets. I brought my cameras hoping to shoot sunsets and forget the empty house in Seattle. My ex left a note on the kitchen table. I need something else. No fight, no explanation, just gone. I kept thinking about that note every quiet moment. How I didn't even fight for her, so I stayed busy. Ate alone, walked the decks at night, took long exposure shots of the wake behind the ship. The black water and white foam looked peaceful. For the first time in months, I wasn't replaying every argument in my head. I told myself this trip was a reset. Simple. Just breathe and click the shutter. Day 4, I first noticed Richard Harlan. Wealthy guy, silver hair, always in pressed white shirts and a watch that probably cost more than my car. People whispered he'd just flown in from Central Africa for some mining deal. I saw him at the breakfast buffet. He was sweating heavy even though the AC was cold. His hands shook when he reached for a coffee cup, spilled it everywhere. Instead of being mature about it, he snapped at the server like she ruined his life. I watched from across the room and took a couple photos because lightning there was kind of cool and I had noting better to do. But something stuck with me. His eyes looked too red around the edges. I shook it off. Probably hungover. Guys who are that much rich got some crazy things to get high on. I went back to my cabin and didn't think about him again that day. That night I ate at the Italian place by myself. Skipped the wine on purpose. I wanted my head clear. Walked the promenade deck after. Ocean was flat, stars out. I set up my tripod and took shots for almost an hour. Kept thinking how small my problems felt out here. The divorce, the quiet apartment, the photos I could never sell. Just waves and sounds coming from the ship. Peaceful. Day 5 started normal. I went up to the pool deck around 10 with a book and one camera. Harlan was there looking worse. Skin shiny with sweat, face pale. He argued with some woman over a lounge chair. Not a big deal, but he got way too angry. Grabbed her arm hard. Then he lunged and bit her shoulder. Teeth sinking in, not a punch. A real bite. People screamed. I froze for a second, book still in my hand. My mind went blank, then raced. What the hell did I just see? Security ran over fast. 2 big crew guys tackled him. Harlan kept thrashing, trying to bite anyone close. Blood on his mouth and chin. The woman cried, holding her shoulder. They dragged both away quick. 10 minutes later, the announcement. Small medical incident on the pool deck. Possibly a mental episode. They made it sound boring. I stood there by my chair, heart beating a little fast. Part of me wanted to believe it. But the way he was acting was not just a mental episode. I went back to my cabin on deck 8, sat on the bed and looked at the photos I took of him earlier. His eyes really did look off. I pushed the thought away. Overthinking again, Marcus. Just like you overthought every fight with your ex. I read my book instead. Napped in the afternoon. Dinner was quieter than usual. People whispered about the crazy rich guy, but mostly laughed. I went to bed early, telling myself it was nothing. Woke up around 2 a.m. to noise in the hallway, shouting, a woman screaming, then a heavy thud right against my door. I sat up fast, heart hammering. Grabbed the little knife from the fruit plate I'd left on the nightstand. Put the chain on the door and peeked through the hole. Couldn't see much. Just shadows moving. The noises faded down the hall. I stayed awake the rest of the night, back against the wall, knife in hand. Kept thinking no one would even notice if I disappeared out here. That thought made me feel more alone than the divorce ever did. But nothing happened. Morning of day 6, I went for breakfast. Lines were long. People looked nervous. A crew member said the captain ordered everyone in rooms after 9 for quarantine. I grabbed fruit, coffee, and headed back. Around 11, I stepped onto my balcony. I leaned on the rail and looked down into the big open atrium 8 decks below. That's when everything broke. People were running. Full sprint. A woman in a sundress tripped near the grand staircase. A man in a polo shirt tackled her hard from behind and bit into her neck. Not a fight. He buried his face in and tore. Blood sprayed across the white marble floor, bright red against the clean tiles. More screams echoed up, sharp, panicked. A kid, maybe 8 years old, stood frozen near a fountain crying for his mom. Another person, a crew member, ran past but then turned and lunged at a group trying to help. It was spreading right there in front of me, like fire catching dry grass. My stomach dropped hard. I felt cold all over. For a few seconds I just stared, gripping the railing. My brain connected everything at once. Harlan started it. That bite at the pool. He must have carried something from Africa. Now it's jumping fast. People who get bitten turn quick. I saw the woman on the floor twitch and start trying to crawl toward others already. This isn't some mental episode. This is bad, really bad. And I'm on deck 8, right above it all. How long until they fill the stairwells? Until they reach my hallway? Until they start hitting my door? I stepped back inside fast, almost tripping over the threshold. Locked the sliding door. Then the main door. My hands were shaking bad now. I started moving furniture. Pushed the dresser against the door first, scraping it across the carpet. It was heavier than I expected. I had to put my shoulder into it. Then I dragged the bed over too, wedging it tight. The whole time my mind kept going. Block the door. Buy time. What weapons do I have? Just this small knife. Water in the bathroom. Some snacks, not enough. I should have grabbed more food earlier. Stupid. I sat down hard on the floor with my back against the wall, knife tight in my fist. The blade felt small in my hand. Thoughts came slow and heavy. This isn't normal. Harlan started it. He came from Central Africa. Bit that woman. Now it's spreading through the ship everywhere, buffets, pools, shows. The captain knows. That's why the announcement tried to make it seem fine, cover it up to not spread panic. But it's already too late. I saw it downstairs. It moves fast. I'm on deck 8. Stairwells connect everything. How long until they reach me? An hour? A day? If they get in here, I'm trapped. No escape but the balcony, and jumping means the ocean. I kept breathing deep, in through the nose, out through the mouth, trying to stay calm. One thing at a time, don't panic. If I panic, I'm dead. Focus on the door. Listen. Plan the next move. I stayed like that for hours, back pressed to the wall, ears straining for every sound. I stayed like that for hours. Announcements kept coming at first, stay in cabins, medical teams handling it, then they stopped. Outside, thuds, running feet, screams that got closer then farther. Sometimes scratching on nearby doors, wet coughing. I didn't move, just listened and thought about stupid stuff. How I should have fought harder for my marriage. How dumb it was to care about that now. Right now I was wishing I had more water in the room. Night came. Lights in the hall flickered. Around 3 a.m. a soft knock on my door. Help, a woman's voice whispered. Please, they're coming. I didn't answer right away. Sat there debating. Could be a trap, could be real. Her voice sounded young and scared, not sick. I moved the dresser just enough, kept the chain on, and cracked the door. It was a young woman, 27 maybe, dark hair messy and sticking to her face from sweat. She wore one of those black sequin dancer costumes from the theater shows, tight, sparkly, now torn at the shoulder. There was a scratch on her arm, angry and red but not a bite mark. No teeth marks. Her eyes were wide with fear, but there was something steady in them too, like she was holding herself together by pure will. I let her in. She slipped through the gap fast and I shut the door, pushed the dresser back, and locked everything again. The room felt smaller with another person in it. We sat on the floor in the dark, backs against the bed frame, only the faint balcony light coming in from outside. I grabbed one of the last water bottles and handed it to her. My hands were still shaky from the hours of waiting. She took it with both hands, drank slow, then wiped her mouth. "Thanks," she said quietly. Her voice had a soft accent. Brazilian, I guessed later. She told me her name was Lena. She had been hiding in a storage room near the stage when the atrium exploded into chaos. Saw people she danced with every night get pulled down, friends she practiced routines with. She ran through narrow service hallways, dodging the attacks until she reached my deck. She tried a few doors before mine. Most didn't open. I listened without saying much. Kept thinking, why did I open the door? Because being alone in this felt worse than the risk. The divorce taught me how heavy silence could get. This was heavier, but sitting here with her, even scared, made the room feel less like a coffin. We barely talked after that. Just sat listening to the ship. Every few minutes I'd lean forward and check the door, ear close to the wood, listening for footsteps or scratching. She watched me do it. At one point her shoulder brushed mine when she shifted. Neither of us pulled away. It was warm. In the quiet, I noticed how her breathing slowed a little when it matched mine. We didn't say it, but there was this small comfort there. Like two people who knew the world outside was ending but still chose to sit close instead of apart. I caught myself glancing at her face in the low light. Pretty, even tired and scared. She caught me once and gave a tiny, tired smile. Not flirty, just understanding. Like we both knew this might be the last normal thing we'd feel for a while. Dawn came through the balcony curtains. My cabin had almost nothing left. No real food, just a couple snacks and half a bottle of water. We needed supplies if we were going to last another day. "I'm going to check the crew hallway for food," I said quietly, keeping my voice low. "You can stay here if you want, it's safer." She shook her head right away. "I'm coming with you." Her eyes met mine steady. There was that same quiet strength I saw when I first let her in. It made me feel a little less alone. I nodded. Something about her deciding to come with me felt good, like we were already a small team. We waited for better light, maybe 20 minutes, sitting close on the floor. I had the small knife. She found a metal curtain rod in the closet and tested the weight in her hands. Before we moved the furniture, she touched my arm lightly. "Don't make too much noise." I liked that she wasn't helpless. Liked even more that she wanted to face it with me. We moved the dresser and bed slow, trying not to scrape too loud. Every inch made my heart beat harder. The hallway door opened with a tiny click. The smell hit us right away, terrible smell of rot. A body lay 20 feet away, face down in the carpet, one arm twisted funny. I stepped careful around it, testing each foot before putting weight down. Left foot, right foot. Watch every corner, don't breathe too loud. My mind stayed locked on those small rules so the big fear wouldn't freeze me. Lena moved right behind me, curtain rod ready. I kept glancing back at her. She stayed close, her sequins catching a bit of emergency light every few steps. In that moment, even with death possibly around any corner, I felt this strange pull, like I wanted to protect her, and maybe she felt the same about me. We didn't speak, but that shared silence had weight. Chemistry, I guess you'd call it. Two scared people finding a little anchor in each other while the ship fell apart. We moved slow down the corridor. Every few steps I stopped and listened. Once we heard a door creak somewhere ahead, and we waited almost 2 full minutes before continuing. Lena stayed right with me. Sometimes her arm brushed mine. It was small, but it helped, made the hallway feel less empty. We passed 2 more bodies. One of them twitched when we got close. I didn't stop to look, just kept walking. My hands were sweaty on the knife. I kept thinking, if something comes, hit it hard and keep moving. Don't freeze. Lena is counting on you now. At the end of the hall, we found a service door that led down one deck. The stairs were narrow. We went down careful. At the bottom, we pushed through another door into the galley area, the big kitchen for the main dining rooms. It was dark inside except for a few emergency lights, counters, big stoves, stainless steel everywhere. We stood just inside the door for a minute, listening. "Nothing," I whispered. "Let's check behind the counters. Stay close." We moved along the wall. I was looking for anything useful, bottled water, canned stuff, maybe a better knife. Lena stayed right beside me. We had gone maybe 10 feet when I heard a small sound. I froze. Lena stopped too. From behind a big steel prep counter, a man stood up fast. Big guy, maybe 35, wearing a chef's jacket. He had a meat cleaver in one hand and a fire extinguisher in the other. His eyes were wide and he looked ready to swing. I put my hands up quick, knife pointed down. "Wait, we're not sick." He didn't lower the cleaver right away. His breathing was heavy. "Who the hell are you?" "My name's Marcus. This is Lena. We came from a cabin on deck 8. We're just looking for food and water." Lena spoke up soft. "I was in the theater troupe. I saw what happened in the atrium. We're clean, no bites." The man stared at us for a long few seconds. Then he lowered the cleaver a little. "You two alone?" "Yeah," I said, "for now." He looked us over again, checking our eyes and arms like he was making sure. Finally, he set the extinguisher down. "Name's Javier, Sue's chef. I locked myself in here when shit went bad, been here since." He reached behind the counter and brought out a couple water bottles and some bread rolls. He handed them to us. We sat down on the floor between 2 big stoves, backs against the cabinets. It felt safer than being out in the open hallway. We talked low while we ate. Javier told us he saw a big wave of them come through the kitchen area. Passengers and crew mixed together, biting, screaming. He hid and waited it out. He said the same thing we already figured: fever comes fast. Eyes go red, they stop talking and just attack. I listened and kept glancing at Lena. She looked tired but steady. She asked Javier small questions, like how long he thought the ship had been drifting. The way she talked to him, calm and clear, made me feel a little more sure about our group. 3 people felt better than 2. Javier seemed solid. Tough hands, quiet voice. I liked that he didn't panic. After a while I said, "We should stick together. 3 is safer than going alone." Javier nodded slow. "Yeah, I was thinking the same. I heard some crew talking before everything went quiet. There's a group holding the main theater on deck 5. Might be worth trying to reach." We sat there a bit longer, finishing the bread, planning our next move. I kept thinking how fast things changed. Yesterday I was alone in my cabin. Now I had Lena and Javier. 2 people I barely knew, but they already felt important. I wiped the knife clean again and stood up. "Ready when you are," I said. Javier nodded and picked up his cleaver. Lena stood up too, gripping her curtain rod. None of us rushed. We took a couple extra water bottles and some sealed packs of crackers, stuffed them in a small bag Javier found, and then we just stood there for a minute looking at each other. No big speeches, just a quiet understanding that we were doing this together. We stepped out of the galley carefully. The door made a soft click behind us. The corridors were bad. The emergency lights gave everything a weak, yellowish glow. Blood was smeared along the walls in messy streaks. Broken glass from bottles and display cases crunched under our shoes. Bodies lay scattered here and there, some face down, some slumped against the wall. A few of them still moved, fingers twitching, heads turning. I tried not to look too close at their faces. I went first, knife ready but low, left foot, right foot, stop, listen. I made sure Lena stayed right in front of Javier so I could see her at all times. Javier brought up the rear, breathing steady and heavy. Every 10 steps or so, I'd hold up my hand and we'd all freeze. We'd stand there against the wall, barely breathing, waiting to see if any sounds got closer. Sometimes they did. Sometimes we heard wet shuffling around the next corner and we'd wait it out. It was slow work. My mind stayed small on purpose. Don't look at the face. Check on Lena. Is she okay? I kept glancing back at her. She moved careful, eyes scanning ahead. Every time our eyes met, she gave a small nod like she was saying she was still good. It helped more than I expected. About 15 minutes in, we had our first real close call. We turned a corner near the crew elevator bank, and there was one standing in the middle of the hallway. A woman in a torn steward uniform. Her eyes were bright red even under the weak lights. She wasn't moving fast at first, just swaying a little. Then she saw us and her head snapped up. She made this low, wet growl and started walking toward us. Not running, but quick enough. I held my hand up fast. We all stopped. My heart was beating hard in my ears. I thought, don't let her get close to Lena. I stepped forward 2 steps, knife tight in my hand. When she got within arm's reach, she lunged. I swung hard at the side of her head. The knife went in with a bad sound. She dropped right away. I pulled the blade out, wiped it quick on her uniform, and kept moving. My hands were shaking a little after that. I didn't like how easy it was getting. Lena touched my back once, just for a second as we walked past. It helped settle me. We kept going. A little further down, we had to backtrack once when we heard a group of them moving through the main hallway ahead, heavy footsteps, low moaning. We ducked into a side service corridor and waited almost 15 minutes until it went quiet again. I stood there the whole time with my back against the wall, listening, thinking about how many more of them were between us and the theater. The second time was worse. We came to a small open lounge area with couches and a coffee station. 2 of them were in there. One was a passenger in a nice shirt, now all ripped and bloody. The other looked like a young crew member. They were crouched over something on the floor, eating. The sounds were wet and awful. I froze and put my arm out to stop Lena and Javier. We backed up slow, trying not to make noise. One of them lifted its head anyway. Red eyes looked right at us. They both started coming. We turned and moved faster. My mind was just repeating, keep moving. We slipped into an employee lounge area to take a longer route. That added a lot of time. My back started to ache from staying so tense. My mouth felt dry even though I just had water. I kept thinking simple thoughts to keep from spiraling. Just get to the next corner. Just get past this hallway. Lena and Javier are counting on you not messing up. Don't think about how many more of them might be between us and the theater. We learned quick that if one got too close, you had to hit the head hard. I didn't like it. The sound it made, the way they dropped. But when one came out of a half-open door near us, an older man in a Hawaiian shirt, mouth all red, I didn't hesitate. I stepped forward and brought the knife down. It wasn't clean. He kept twitching for a few seconds after. I wiped the blade right after and kept moving. Lena didn't say anything, but I felt her stay close behind me afterward. Javier gave me a quiet, good job under his breath. It was the first time any of us spoke in almost an hour. It took almost 2 hours to cover what should have been a short walk. 2 full hours of slow movement, hiding in doorways, listening, waiting. My legs felt heavy by the end, but we made it. When we finally reached the main theater on Deck 5, the big double doors were locked from the inside. It looked messy but solid. Someone had worked hard to make it safe. We stopped about 10 feet back. Javier called out in a low, careful voice, "Hey, anyone in there?" There was a long pause. Then a man's voice came through a small gap in the doors. "Who are you?" "Alive," Javier answered. "3 of us, not sick." We waited. I could hear quiet talking inside. I kept my knife ready but pointed down. Lena stood right beside me, close enough that our arms touched. I felt her breathing steady next to mine. It was a small thing, but it mattered in that moment. After a minute, the chairs behind the door scraped across the floor. The gap opened wider. A man peeked out, looked us over carefully, then waved us in one by one. I went first, then Lena, then Javier. They closed the door fast and pushed the chairs and tables back into place. There were about 40 people inside the main theater. Most of them sat on the floor between the seats or up on the stage. The place smelled bad. There were a lot of scared faces. Some people had bandages on their arms or legs. A few were crying softly. Others just stared at the floor like they were too tired to do anything else. A woman with short gray hair and strong shoulders walked over to us. She carried herself like she had done this kind of thing before. "I'm Carla," she said. "Retired Marine. I've been organizing things here. You 3 clean?" We nodded. Javier showed his arms, then Lena and I did the same. Carla checked our eyes and necks quickly. Dr. Patel was sitting on the edge of the stage. He was the ship's doctor, an older Indian man with tired eyes and messy hair. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Carla brought him over. Dr. Patel spoke quiet, like he didn't want to scare the others more than they already were. "The virus started with Richard Harlan. He came back from Central Africa. It spreads mostly through saliva and bites, sometimes blood if it gets in a cut. The fever comes fast, usually 1 to 3 hours. Eyes turn red. They lose the ability to speak. After that, there's only rage and hunger. Once someone is bitten and turns, there's no going back. I saw it with the first cases. No cure that I can find." He rubbed his face. "The captain tried to lock the whole ship down, but it spread too quick through the decks. Too many people got infected. Captain cabin is overrun now. I think the captain is dead. The ship is drifting. No one steering." Carla took over. Her voice was steady. "We've got 2 main jobs. One team will try to reach the communications tower on the upper decks to send a real distress call. Another team will work on the lifeboats, get them ready in case we need to leave fast. We have to hold until then." I looked at Lena and Javier. I didn't want us to split up. We had only been together a short time, but it already felt wrong to separate. I raised my hand. "We'll go for the comms team," I said. "All 3 of us." Carla nodded. "Good, we leave at dusk. Get some rest until then." We found a spot near the back of the theater behind some curtains. Someone gave us a few protein bars and water. We ate slowly. I kept my knife next to me the whole time. Lena and I sat together on the floor while Javier dozed a little against the wall. The stage lights were off, so it was dim and quiet. She looked worn out in her torn sequin costume, but she still sat up straight. She spoke first, keeping her voice low. "Where are you from, Marcus?" "Seattle," I said. "I'm a travel photographer, or I was. Came on this cruise after my divorce. Thought it would help me clear my head." She gave a small smile. "I'm from a small town in Brazil. I joined the dance troupe to see the world. This is not exactly what I had in mind." We talked for a while about normal things. She told me about her family back home, how she liked the ocean but never thought she'd be stuck on it like this. I told her about my cameras, the photos I took of quiet places, and how my wife left with a simple note. It felt weird sharing normal life stuff while 40 scared people sat around us and infected wandered the halls outside. But it also felt good, like a short break from everything. At one point she looked at me and said, "You seem calm." I thought about it for a second. "Not calm," I answered. "Just doing the next best thing I can see. If I think too much, I freeze." She nodded like she understood. We sat there quietly after that, shoulders touching again. It was nice. Simple. We left at dusk. 8 of us total for the comms team. Carla had a gun she took from security. The rest of us had our knives, poles, and whatever else we could find. We moved up the stairs careful. Deck 6 was okay. Deck 7 was darker with some power failing in the lights. On Deck 9, 3 infected came out a side hall. Fast. Carla shot one. Javier got another. One grabbed Lena. I stabbed it in the eye, blood on my hands. I kept moving, thinking, don't stop. Deck 10 was worse. The blood was everywhere, smeared on the floors, streaked down the walls, even splattered on some of the windows. Broken glass crunched under our shoes with every step. A few of the big windows looking out to the ocean were shattered, letting in cold sea air that made the whole deck feel unsteady. The ship was rocking harder now, rolling side to side more than before. No one was steering anymore. Every time the floor tilted, I had to brace myself. I stayed close to Lena the whole time. I kept checking on her without saying much. Every few minutes I'd glance over at her. Her face looked worn out. I made sure I stayed between her and any open doorways we passed. Javier kept the rear, his cleaver ready. We moved even slower here. The power was failing more, so whole sections of hallway were almost dark. We had to stop often, pressing against the wall, listening to the ship creak and groan around us. Once we waited almost 10 minutes because we heard slow, dragging sounds coming from a side corridor. We never saw what made it, but we took a different route anyway. My legs were starting to burn from all the tension. We finally reached the stairwell that led up to the sun deck on 11. That was the open area we had to cross to get to the communications tower. Carla went up first, then the rest of us followed quiet. Stepping out onto the sun deck was a mistake. The deck was wide open, with rows of lounge chairs, 2 small pools, and not many places to hide. The emergency lights were dim, casting shadows. We had only taken a few steps when I saw them. They were waiting. At least 50, maybe more, scattered across the deck, some standing near the pools, others lying on the chairs. Torn clothes, bloody faces, red eyes. The moment they noticed us, their heads turned. Then they charged. "Run!" Carla yelled. We ran. I grabbed Lena's arm and pulled her with me. My legs burned as we dodged between lounge chairs and around the pools. My mind was racing but staying small. Don't trip. Stay with Lena. Get to the door on the other side. The communications tower entrance wasn't far, but it felt like miles with them coming after us. Javier was right behind me. I heard him grunt, then a loud scrape. He had tripped over a folded lounge chair lying on the deck. I slowed for half a second and looked back. The horde hit him fast. 10 or 12 of them were on him in seconds. He looked up at me for 1 second, his eyes wide but clear. "Go," he shouted. Then they were on him, biting, tearing. His scream was short and cut off quick. I wanted to turn back so bad. My feet slowed down like they had a mind of their own. Part of me was already moving toward him, thinking maybe I could pull some of them off. But Lena grabbed my arm hard and yanked me forward. "Come on," she said, voice tight. Carla fired a couple shots behind us to slow the ones still coming. The sound was loud on the open deck. I ran. I hated myself with every single step. My chest felt heavy. I kept seeing Javier's face in that 1 second he told us to go. I left him there. I just left him. The 4 of us who made it, me, Lena, Carla, and 2 others, finally reached the radio room door. We pushed inside, slammed the heavy metal door shut, and started piling everything we could find against it. Tables, chairs, equipment cases. The sound from outside was constant now, bodies hitting the door, wet scratching. We sat on the floor once the door was as secure as it was going to get. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I kept seeing Javier's face when he told me to go. This room was my world, just this fear, this waiting. Lena leaned against me quietly. I could feel her breathing. "We're still here," she whispered. I nodded, couldn't speak. The ship is drifting. The scratching on the door is getting louder. Somewhere below, more people are fighting and dying. I close my eyes and just focus on the next breath. Keep her safe. Stay alive. That's all I got right now. That's the story, man. Started as a guy trying to feel okay again, turned into this. I keep replaying every choice, wondering if I could have saved Javier, if I should have stayed in my cabin, but here we are, alive but miserable.